Welcome to the Diane McClay Show, empowering life through choice. Get ready to discover new perspectives, motivation, and balance through Diane's compassionate storytelling and insightful discussions. Whether you're feeling stuck and discouraged or curious and looking for more possibilities, Diane has your back, and she's ready to take you on a journey of self-discovery and expansion. Choice is powerful, and so are you. The Diane McClay Show starts now.
Welcome in, everybody, to another show of the Diane McClay Show on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm so happy to be here. We're finally in spring. This is such an awesome experience. I have one of my friends, one of my collaborators, Nikki Gangemi, with me today. We are going to talk to you about how you can shake your world up from the inside out, how you can actually create a positive lifestyle, how you can control some of the negativity. And we're going to teach you a couple of tricks to just make sure that you can get through spring and get into summer and have a busy, productive, happy life on your choice. But let me tell you a little bit about Nikki. She went from a teaching job to being an entrepreneur to founding the Mindful Matters LLC Corporation. She's a board certified success and life coach. Recently certified under NLP, which I'll have her talk to you a little bit about later, and a clinical hypnotist, speaker, and one of my favorites. She is the author of My Gracie, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But My Gracie is a children's book about how to help kids change their world from the inside out using their imagination and their mind. Nikki, welcome in.
Thank you so much, Diane. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So let's chat a little bit. So people might be wondering, why did you shift out of a teaching career? I know your story, but what led you into just getting out of teaching and getting into building this Mindful Matters business? And what's happening today with that?
Yeah, so actually, it began with my love of acting, and that's something that I always wanted to do from the time I was a kid. And I followed that dream, and I lived out in Los Angeles, California for a year pursuing the acting. But I gave up on it because I didn't believe in myself. So I found myself on a plane back home to New Jersey. And I'm like, now what do I do? Because I've only ever wanted to act. And everybody said, be a teacher. And I said no. Until one day I got tired of saying no. And I said yes. And there I stayed for 15 years. And I was unhappy and feeling bad about it because teaching is a rewarding career. And, it's like, why would you say you don't want to be a teacher? But I decided to one day bloom where I was planted. And I saw the kids going through the same things I went through because I taught in the same district that I went through as a kid myself and went through a lot of bullying, and I allowed it to impact me as an adult. So when I saw the same things happening with the kids, that was when Mindful Matters was born. I said, kids need to know that they can be heard and that their feelings matter. So I came alive again for the first time since I was acting. I said, I'm on purpose. I found what I'm supposed to be doing. And when I couldn't take it any further, that's when I learned about coaching. I ended up quitting that job. And now I get to coach other people believing in themselves and living the life they want on their terms.
And it's I love that story. And I just made a note because you never know when a beautiful nugget drops on these shows, and you just put one out there, and I want to repeat it for our audience. I got tired of saying no, so I started to say yes. And I think that's really the essence of what we're talking about today, about saying no to the things that don't serve us or don't move us forward towards our goals, and saying yes to even the smallest little thing, which could mean like, hey, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm going to try. Speak to that a little bit.
Definitely. And so I think not only myself, but many of us can relate that sometimes you say yes to something that's actually a hard no for you, but you do it anyway because you don't think any bigger than the box that we keep ourselves in, right? And a piece of you on the inside dies just a little bit and you just go through the motions. That's when we get on autopilot. But I woke up at 40 when I looked in the mirror one day getting ready for work, and I was like, wait a second, I had this out-of-body experience. I saw myself from outside of myself like that hurt teenager. And I said, oh my God, how did I make it to 40 following the rules, doing everything I was told to do, the job, the 401k, the pension, but where's my husband and kids? that didn't come. And that's when I said, that's it. I'm doing Nikki. And we're going to get back in the driver's seat here and do things on my terms. And that was my moment. I call it my mirror moment when I said, no more, I'm saying yes to me, what I want to do.
And in your bio, you talk about making yourself the leading lady of your life, and I think that's awesome. That not only that you've embraced it so much that's actually a piece of your marketing, but reminding people to make ourselves the leading lady or leading man in our own lives. Let's talk a little bit about the inside out, because it sounds to me like that you just kind of created a checklist of shoulds that society or family kind of laid out for you and often lays out for a lot of us. So take us to the inside out, and then I'll link it to how I do it with nature.
Sure. Yeah. So the inside out came. I was so unhappy, Diane. I was in and out of therapy for a long time, just trying to, who am I? Right. And how can I be happy with these negative thoughts in my mind? And I got introduced to mindfulness. And that's when it was meditation and yoga and emotional freedom technique where the thoughts slowed down. And that's when I could really breathe for the first time. And I said, what everything we want is already inside of us. When we can quiet down and tune in enough and trust and lean into any of the fears that any of us have, knowing that it's going to pass. And on the other side, there's just amazing, amazing things on the other side of fear. So when I say inside out, I mean starting with you, being willing to sit with yourself and take personal responsibility. And that was another reason why I ended up leaving my job. When I stopped pointing my finger and blaming others for why I, did what I did, I was able to start living at cause. And that's where you become the leading lady or man of your life.
Right. I can remember a time that I had a lot going on in my life, and I was super stressed out, and I was just crying, and I couldn't think of anything. And there was this kind of compulsion that I felt like I have to go to the woods. I have to go out into nature. That is the only place that feels like it's going to support me and love me for who I am. So Jacob, if you want to roll a couple of those photos, I'll kind of link it to the story. But I literally went, and I'm from the Midwest, and I have, from kind of conservative family background values. And I kind of had this weird thing like, hey, there's nobody around me. I'm in this private little spot. And I just kind of like, I felt like I needed to just get naked with the earth. Now that may sound weird to a lot of people, but I was just in this emotional state where literally my insides were pouring out. And I just put a blanket down, I laid down on the earth, and then I was able to slow down, like you say, and I was able to breathe. And more recently, I took a hike into Silver Falls State Park, and I was just amazed at the perspective of how just being in nature changes my brain and changes how my body is thinking, that it's almost like I can see all the problems from a completely different angle. And I know that when you walk on the beach, you kind of have the same thing. So tell me a little bit about your story and how you get connected, and then we'll link it back into how people can tie this into their lives and choose happiness for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. So I love the beach, and it's a great place, like you said, nature, where you could really just step out of your world temporarily and use your senses, all what you could see. I mean, the beach, especially with the like expansive ocean and the horizon and the bright blue sky and the gentle breeze, the sound of the seagulls, you could really just, you can't focus on two things at the same time, right? So you can't be thinking about any issues or problems you have and really be present. And for me, the beach is that place. And the picture that I shared with you of that particular beach, I've lived in this area of New Jersey where I live for 8 years. Do you know it took me 8 years to find that beautiful path? And the reason I didn't find it was because I was told about it. Oh, you can go to Sandy Hook and there's this beautiful trail. You've got the ocean on one side, you've got the bay on the other, there's trees and deer, and it's amazing. And I said, well, I'm not comfortable. I've never been there before. How deep is this trail? Is it smart for me to go by myself as a female? When I finally went, I said, I cannot believe, because I was afraid to step outside of my comfort zone, that this beauty existed. And it was really a lesson for life that, again, that beauty is on the other side of your comfort zone.
Well, and I hear a couple things in there. I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says life begins beyond your comfort zone. Our fear, and we'll get into the NLP stuff a little bit later, but our fears, a lot of people say, well, just get over your fear. And I don't think that our brain really is designed to completely let go of our fear, because at some point those fears have served us well. They've kept us safe, right? That dinosaur part of your brain is like, ooh, I don't want you to get hurt or die. That's already kind of activated at the subconscious level. But if we can understand that the fear is there, and then we can make a conscious choice, which is what I have in my two words are choice and courage. When we can say, hey, is there a different way that I can look at that fear? Is there a different way that fear can serve me? Or can I set that fear aside for a little bit, know that it's there and it will keep me safe when the situation comes up, but I am going to go down that trail. I am going to get curious. I am going to use some courage to try something new. I think that's when the perspective changes, right? That's when there's literally something physically changing in our brain. Am I right on that track?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you start to question, because we have these filters in our brain and we only see what we focus on, expect, and believe. And when we want to shake things up a little bit, that really begins with asking yourself, is this fear? Is it grounded in fact and truth? Or is it perhaps a belief that I have? And it usually is. And then you can ask yourself, well, what else is true? And that's the question that you brought up. What else is possible? What's another option? And that gets you to expand your perspective a little bit.
I love that you brought options in, because I teach my clients that as soon as we can create awareness, okay, so here's this fear or this resistance, our power goes up. And then if we can change our perspective and we can open up the opportunity for ourselves to create option, our power goes up even more. And then if we make a choice from the option we created, from the awareness we created, holy cow, we're unstoppable. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree.
Yeah, and so here's the thing, like as a woman who would want to go into nature by myself at some point in time, like you, we can be aware that we have that hesitation or that fear. But like you said, if we get curious, well, I like to ask my clients, well, what's the worst that could happen? Right? And they're usually pretty good at painting a really good picture about what the worst is. And then I say, how likely is that to happen? Right? And then they kind of back off a little bit, maybe a little bit. And I say, okay, well, if it does happen, what can you do now to prepare for it? So my friends make fun of me because I have everything to survive in my backpack, even if I'm going for a 1-hour hike, right? But I'm prepared. And if I fall off a cliff and break my ankle, I'm going to be able to get myself out of it. So what that does is that empowers my strength and it empowers my curiosity to go and explore those places that normally I would have let my anxiety or fear get in my way. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And now I know that I have to take you hiking with me because I don't prepare. I don't ask myself those questions. I don't. I think, well, what's the best case scenario?
Right.
So I'm not prepared, but I have you.
But see, that's the beauty that we have when we're talking about why it's important to be mindful and what we're putting into our mind and perspective, right? You and I would make great hiking partners because I'm prepared for the worst case scenario. I typically just kind of put it on the back burner. And really, my partner's like, why do you need to take that? I'm like, in case the cougar shows up, because I can't outrun you. Right. But look at how you and you see the best case scenario, because when you go into nature, you're going to want to enjoy everything about it, but you might inadvertently overlook something that could put you at risk. I see it from the other side of the coin, where I look at the risk and I mitigate it before I go, and then I can enjoy it when I get there. They get us to the same place.
Yes.
Right. We're strengthening ourselves from the inside out.
Exactly.
So speak a little bit about the new licensing or the new certification you got with NLP. What is it? Why is NLP kind of important in your practice? And how could we apply that to everyday life when we're talking about building happiness and joy from the inside out?
Yeah, so NLP it's neuro-linguistic programming, and it's basically the language of the subconscious mind. We are always, mostly 95% of our day, on autopilot. which means you really don't have to consciously think of very much at all. So when you have NLP, what it does, and you're going to love this, Diane, it increases choice because it gets you to step out of your model of the world, that box that we live in, right? With all of our filters based on memories, limiting decisions that we've made, beliefs, values, attitudes, right? We see everything through that lens. And this is why everybody has a different experience of life and of situations, right? So with NLP, you ask yourself or clients questions that get them to consider another option, to consider another alternative without telling them. Because when you know yourself, when you're told what to do, what happens?
Right.
Walls go up, you shut down, right? So that's what, and there's so many amazing processes, including time techniques, where people could really let go of a belief that they've held for 30 years. They can let go of it in 10 minutes.
Wow.
It is amazing. So because I do a lot of work with mindset and subconscious, the NLP, the hypnotherapy, time techniques has all supported me in helping clients much faster.
And you've gone through some of this process yourself, right? You've kind of cleared some stuff that was hanging around in the inside that you didn't even really know was there getting in your way, right?
Absolutely. And there's always more, it's like the onion. There's so many layers of the onion, but I love that you used the word curious before, because one thing that's going to help you to move forward a lot faster is get out of judgment, like judging yourself. I shouldn't think this way. What's wrong with me? That's not helpful. And instead being curious, like, oh, that's interesting that I have this belief. I wonder where this belief came from. I wonder whose belief it is anyway. Many times it's not even our belief. It's somebody else's that we've chosen to see as the word, the truth. But then now that we know, we have that awareness, we can let it go.
So NLP, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So NLP essentially increases choice for people.
Right. And so if people are curious about it, they can seek out an NLP practitioner. I mean, you can Google it but it's a lot of times it's helpful to have a non-judgmental kind of impervious guide there to sort of help set the scene without strategically trying to make it good or bad, just really setting the container to hold the safety for it. So do you have a technique or a tip that if somebody's trying to let go of negativity or let go of some fear or anxiety, do you have something that you could offer our audience right now that they could think about after our radio show, or that they could start implementing pretty quickly in their life without a coach or without a big program?
Yeah, I would say the first thing to do is become aware of what you're feeling and not run away from it, right? So many of us, when we feel something that's uncomfortable, that fear or that stress, we want to go do something else. Go on our phones and go on social media, right? We want to just run. But instead, it's like if you can allow yourself to sit with it, an emotion only takes 90 seconds to move through you. And that comes from Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. She's a neuroscientist. She suffered a stroke and got herself back to health and well-being. And if we are willing to sit with the fear or whatever negative emotion for a minute and a half and get curious about it and ask, I'm noticing I'm having this fear. What is this fear about? And listen to the answers that bubble up in your mind. You know so much more than you think. So that's the first thing, is to become aware of it, give yourself permission to sit with it, breathe through it, and then ask, well, what else is possible? After you realize that, okay, this is a fear that I have. Is it real? Is it a fact? Is it a belief? Asking what else is possible. And then the third part is starting to look for evidence where that is true,
Or conversely, look for evidence where it's not true. Right? Where you could eliminate it. What is that?
Thank you for saying that. So when you come up with what else is true and it's a positive, then start looking for evidence where that positive belief
because in the mindset world, once the mind settles on something, it wants to still keep being kept fed in that direction. So if we see that something is not true and it makes us feel bad, we will continue to look for more things that make us feel bad. Right. Yeah. And you're challenging people to look for the things that feel safe and supportive and authentic and real and empowering, and then continue to expand to look for more evidence on those sides of the coin. Is that right?
Exactly. Exactly. Because we're always looking for evidence. I say we're like gatherers of evidence, but we're usually looking for evidence to argue for our limitations. And this
Wow.
is flipping the coin and now looking for evidence that supports you and the direction that you want to go in.
That's a great quote. So I want to call that out again. We have a tendency as humans to look for the evidence that records, say that again.
We tend to look for evidence that supports how we argue for our limitations.
For our limitations, right?
Okay.
We tend to look for evidence that supports our limitations, and really to live a happy and empowered life and an abundant life, not just money, but emotionally and energetically abundant. It's flipping the coin and looking for the expanse of what's possible.
Yes.
Is that the good flip?
And that's a great flip. And also being mindful of the language that we use. So many times we focus more on what we don't want. And when you start catching yourself and very lovingly, right, flipping it and start saying more of what you do want. Words are so powerful. Remember that old saying back in the day, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I don't know who came up with that, but completely not true.
Yeah, they're an idiot.
I'm glad you said it. Yeah.
You know,
words are powerful. And
Yep.
you know, when you start changing the words you use and even speaking more kinder about yourself, your world will change.
We have one of our media group members, David George Brooks. He's that gratitude guy. He says, you know, we have one mouth and two ears, and you know, whatever we say, our brain gets to hear twice. So I think it's a great thought of like, hey, our brain has captured that twice as fast as what our mouth has said it, and once we've said it, it anchors in. And so, being aware of what we're saying, one of the things I like to do in my personal life, and I think you do too, but I choose who my influencers are. You know, who are the people that I look to mentor and guide me and coach me? And that's the reason why I'm a part of the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group, is because I'm around a group of people who influence me to be better, and they have very positive, forward-thinking ideas. But the other thing is, and you triggered this when you were talking about that you kind of block yourself from the news every now and then, is I think that we have to choose what influences us. So right after the election, I don't care which side you voted for, I knew in my heart that from November until January, there was going to be a lot of confusion and a lot of strong feelings on both sides, and it wouldn't get resolved. I made a choice not to tune in. I made a choice. I'm like, I wake up every morning and I still have me, and I still have my dogs and my life, and I'm still making money, and I'm happy, and I don't feel compelled to be influenced by that negative news cycle.
Yes. And I never watch the news because I'm very selective, because I know that our subconscious thinks in pictures, sounds, and feelings. I'm very selective as to what pictures I allow myself to see. And those images on the news, they're not helpful.
Right.
Opinion, but yeah.
It's in my head. I just saw like parental controls. You know, if you're a parent, you control the content that your children see, or you do your best that you can, right? You want to make sure that they are influenced by the things that the morals and values that you have in your family and your culture and your part of the society. But why don't we do that as adults? Why don't we put our own parental or adult control on ourselves about who influences us, or what pictures or images we see, or how we engage with negative people in the world? I mean, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, it is. It's be selective.
Well, be selective is awesome. So let's jump real quick to being selective. I know that you have a program coming up called Make It Happen Supercharged Success Program that you're going to invite people to, where you can actually help them do some of the things we're talking about. Can you speak to that for a minute?
I could, sure. The Make It Happen program starts in April, and it's a small group coaching program where I help you to achieve any 90-day goal or outcome that you want by getting out of your own way, paying attention to those filters and changing them so that you 100% believe that you can achieve that goal. So many people, we set these goals, I want to make, let's just say $1 million, but there's a big part of you that doesn't believe that. Right. And it's more focused on it not happening and more of like an away energy than moving towards what you want. So that's what I help people to do in the program.
Right. Okay. And I know Jacob has a slide on how people can get a hold of you on that, but can you tell people how people can enroll in that program, how they can find you? And then we'll go to a couple other things before we wrap up.
Sure. I can send you a link to enroll in the program, but anybody can also reach out to me. They can go to my website, mindfulmattersliving.com. You can also email me directly, my name, Nikki, Nikki, at mindfulmattersliving.com.
Okay. And what can people, so you're going to help people basically achieve any 90-day goal. You're going to help people identify some negative habits or patterns they'd like to change, right? And there was a third thing in there?
Yes. And then I'm going to help them come up with a plan, a weekly plan with the action steps. And then as we go through it, I'm going to use the NLP and all those other techniques to help them get rid of procrastination, self-sabotage, how to be able to motivate yourself in 5 seconds and put that on repeat. So all that inner work and the mindset, I'm with them, and they get, different meditations that I have. And it's a really comprehensive program with full support, including a private Facebook group that we get to be together in.
I think that's important and awesome work that you're doing out there, especially with everything that we have going on in the world today. I mean, you and I have coaches, we have business coaches, we have mindset coaches. So I think it's important for people to think about making sure that they bring somebody on to their team that is absolutely 100% moving them forward and committed to their goal. Do you have any, man, this time just runs so quick. So you got to come back. Can I get you to come back?
Oh, I'd love to come back. Yes.
Okay. Last parting words for our audience. What's the one thing you want them to walk away with today?
The first thing that popped into my mind is to proceed as if success is inevitable, because it is. And once you start telling yourself that story, it's just on the other side of all the fear. So take the leap, do you, and your success is guaranteed.
I absolutely 100% guarantee. And congratulations on jumping out of saying no and jumping back into saying yes to yourself. It's only been a year, I think, since you really made that full big leap.
This June will be 2 years. Can you
believe
this?
Yeah. June? So that's the amazing thing, that when you start saying yes to yourself and you start removing the negativity, it's amazing just how quickly life goes by, because you're moving at a very energized and purposeful kind of way. I'm Diane McClay with the Diane McClay Show. We're going to have to wrap it up for today, but we're here every Friday, the second and fourth Friday of the month at 1:30 in the afternoon Pacific time on Transformation Talk Radio. And I'm going to sign off by just saying, empower your life and engage your choice. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for listening to the Diane McClay Show, where you are empowered to enact change in your life through choice. You know that little voice in your head that's been telling you to pursue that passion project? Or maybe it's been screaming for you to go outside and explore the great outdoors. That voice is you, and you deserve to be heard. Listen, make a choice, make a change, and watch yourself grow. For more information about Diane or to work with her personally, visit dianemcclay.com.